Let's open it up.
And how do you do that? We're 6 seconds, 8 point feet, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Buckeye Scoop Live. It is Tuesday night. They've just announced the playoff rankings. We have Indiana on tap. This is going to be a new standard we're going to do on Tuesday nights. So I hope you guys enjoy it. We're going to be taking some questions, talking some football, talking about how to fix what is wrong with Ohio State, talk about the march towards the Michigan Wolverines. With that being said, as always, we are thankful and grateful for you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for subscribing to Buckeye Scoop. Subscribe to the channel. Leave us a like. Leave us some comments. We're going to open this up for questions shortly. Without further ado, I'm going to bring in my two guests. I have the great Bill the Bank Greene, and I have Nevadabuck. Gentlemen, how are you two doing tonight?
Good, man.
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Awesome. Bank, I am going to start off with you. Obviously, you've written some thoughts on the Northwestern game. What do we need to do to get ready for the Michigan Wolverines? I think that some of these kids are they're not really buying into the hype, but I've been in their exact shoes where everybody in town, all their family members are talking about nothing but Michigan. Looks like it's going to end up being a 2-3 matchup unless some tragedy happens over the next 2 weeks. What do you do if you're Ryan Day to get this team more locked in, get the guys a little more technically sound, and get this thing back on track? Because we're going to face a really formidable foe on the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, you've been in these shoes before, and I haven't, so I'm going to take your opinion more than mine. But the way I look at it, I think if you are a national championship team, there is a standard that you have to perform to. And I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I would probably be more important to me than dusting Indiana 72-3, which is probably what's going to happen. And I think they can beat them 54-10 like they did Iowa, but you still can have bad habits. So I think there's a standard of performance that each position group needs to be held to. And I don't know, I want to know what your thoughts are on that because you've been in those shoes before. But that would be my thought as Ryan Day. I'm going to beat this Indiana team so bad, but that doesn't necessarily mean we've performed to the standard of play that is going to be required to win the national championship.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get Nevada's take on it. Then I'll kind of give my take. Nevada, we heard Ryan Day talk about some adjustments he wants to make. Bad weather. What are you going to do about it? What are your thoughts on what needs to get tweaked as we move towards Michigan?
Well, I think, I really believe that the Northwestern game was kind of a wake-up call for the Ohio State staff, most importantly. I know the players will get it together. The letdown after a Penn State game, to me, just from a betting perspective, I've always looked for those letdown games after an emotional game and, come back into Evanston. That's why I was, on Northwestern and the under last week, because I thought that Ohio State would kind of phone it in and put in a bad effort. And I think that's exactly what happened. So what happened out there really wasn't that surprising. The weather was beyond bad. I mean, and I know both teams had to play in it, but, when you've got a high skill team like Ohio State, the weather was a factor. I mean, and it'd be like if I was going to race Usain Bolt, I'd want to do it in a monsoon because I'm slow and I'll still be slow, but he'll be, his fastest will be slow in the rain. And I think for Ohio State, they got caught in a very, very interesting weather situation where their passing attack kind of went to heck, and their running attack really, hadn't really gotten on track until they started running the quarterback. And the best thing that's happened through this whole thing is that I think Day has kind of rediscovered some key elements of the quarterback run as a constraint that I really think are going to unlock some big things to the OSU running game. And we'll see. It's all talk now, but we'll see over the next 3 weeks, if they run the ball, more effectively, if they use counter action, if they pull the guards more often, if they use the jet sweep action, if they use the reverse action, if they use more direct runs, if they use more quarterback draw, I think they will. And I think that it was almost like an epiphany, almost like a moment of clarity for the OSU staff in terms of what they need to do. And you see these certain turning point moments that have happened throughout OSU's history, and I think this was one of them. And I'm very bullish on the future.
I agree. I think that this is in Bill the bank Greene's world, this is like Northwestern is like, you're playing a tournament at Meadow Lake, and then in 3 weeks you play a tournament at Augusta. So you're not really thinking about Meadow Lake or the Canton local chorus or whatever. Shout out Meadow Lake. I used to be a member there when I was in 7th grade. But it's hard, man. I'm telling you, in 06, we kind of had the same thing going on where we got through like Penn State. We got through the game that was out at Iowa that was like a 1 versus 12 matchup. It was a blackout. They beat our ass in 04. We had to go out there and win. We got through like, that last big hurdle, and all of a sudden it was just like, Cupcake City. It was like, you're at the bakery with a 6-pack of cupcakes right in a row. And then everyone's looking at Michigan. They're looking at Michigan's schedule like, oh God, Michigan's playing Indiana, the same Indiana, Purdue, Rutgers, there's like the Northern Lambs, and then there's like the Northern, like, baby lambs, and those are like the baby lambs. And like, we're like, there's no way that anyone's going to stop us. And it's going to be a 1 versus 2 matchup because we were so high up in the polls. We knew it was going to be like, it's going to be a 2 versus 3, all the marbles, for the Big Ten championship and in 06, there was no Big Ten title game. So that was like, you got the trophy in the locker room at the 06 game. So it was like a lot on the line, families all talking about it. And again, like, the hardest thing is you kind of got to be like, kind of an asshole about it and say, hey, look, you really need to lock in, because a lot of these kids are distracted. It's, more people have access to these kids than at any point in the history of college football with NIL and deals. And as these guys are doing better and better, and the team's doing better and better, more opportunities are coming to these kids. More people want a piece of them. More people want to have them, at the restaurant, write a little check for, an appearance or whatever. Like, they're doing all this stuff, and that's great. But, again, it's like, does it take your eye off the prize? And again, we're not going to know until, after the national championship game, who handled it the best and whatever. But it's going to be fascinating as we come down the stretch. And, it really just comes down to performing better. I mean, it's easy to say, guys on the offensive line got their asses kicked and they're soft and all this stuff. But it's like, you have to figure out a way to technically fix things. You can't just say, oh, he stinks. Oh, he's bad. Like, we could do that because we're just media. But it's like, when you're Justin Fry and that GA and you're Kevin Wilson, these are the guys you got. You can't, this isn't the, you can't go make a trade. You can't go pick up a free agent. Like, you got to roll with these guys. And it's like, when you see teams like Georgia and you see teams with formidable defensive fronts, and even Michigan's front, I mean, they've got some really good players, especially in the interior. You got to get these guys tuned in. And the hard part is, like, for a guy like Donnie Jackson, who I love to death, I've been a 19-year-old, sophomore starter when I was a redshirt freshman, and you have to grow up quick. Like, you have to get tough or die. And it is like, you've got a big task in front of you. And Mazzie Smith, the kid who's from Michigan, is probably their best player, or one of their best players, the big D tackle who's a freak show. Like, that's the guy staring down the barrel at you. And, we used to have Alan Branch and Gabe Watson and Lamar Woodley and Brandon. Like, my senior year, I played Brandon Graham the whole game. So, I mean, those guys, those are NFL guys, high level, first round, second round type talents. And, you better eat your Wheaties and you better get your mind right. Bank, I'm going to swing back to you. The playoff rankings are out. Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, TCU 4. Any surprises? I think this is pretty much chalk for what people expected. Anything you disagree with in the top 7 or 8?
No, not really. And I'm someone that really thinks this show is unnecessary. It's strictly for entertainment. It has no bearing on what we're going to find. The final show is the one that you need to watch, not this one. I think there are some paper tigers up there that aren't going to be there later. TCU is not good. Okay. They're not a good football team. They're flashy. They're fun. The best thing about them is they know how to win in the fourth quarter. And that's a great trait to have. But like this year, nobody would say that Iowa State is a great team, because they're not. They're near the bottom of the Big 12. They have allowed 147 points this year as a bad team at the bottom. TCU has allowed 242. TCU has allowed nearly 100 more points than Iowa State has. They're not good. They are not going to survive this upcoming stretch. They go at Texas, at Baylor. They get Iowa State at home, and then they're going to get a rematch in the Big 12 title game, they're probably going to finish with 2 losses. I don't know that they can get in with 1 loss. So to me, TCU is a throwout. Michigan, I don't think is going to beat Ohio State in Columbus last game of the year, and they're not going to get to the Big 10 title game. So to me, they're probably a throwout. They're not putting 2 Northern Lambs in. They know the scores of these Big 10 teams when they get in the playoffs. They know they get murdered, other than Ohio State, who has had their murderings too. So I think that, you got the 3 and 4 team in here. They're not going to end up the 3 and 4. I don't think, but we'll see. I believe Georgia's is in. No matter, they're in. Ohio State is so close to being in, because I do think, I think Ohio State, man, they might be able to get in with a loss, as long as the loss is in the Big 10 title game. Maybe they could get in with a loss, but I think they're as close to being in as you can be. They got to beat Michigan at home. If you can't beat Michigan at home, you got no business going to the playoffs anyway. So I like 1 and 2 where they're at. 3 and 4, they can be there today. I don't think they're going to end up there. So I think the door's open for Pac-12 champion. I don't think Clemson's out of it yet either. So long way to go, my friend. Long way to go is what I'll say. And you follow college football, the last 3 weeks what happens. It gets really good.
Yeah, it's do or die. Nevada, any issues with the top 7 or so? I mean, obviously, like as Banks said, this stuff is just fodder. It's just something for entertainment. But any issues with any of the standings? And who do you think is going to fall after this weekend?
Well, no, I just think that just in general, I'm with Bank in terms of I think it's really early and so much has got to get played out. But I would predict that this will be the year that there's 4 teams from 4 different conferences that make it. And I just think it's going to be they're going to make a real commitment on behalf of the playoff committee. They've made a big deal about expanding the playoff. So that's why I would keep an eye on a Pac-12 champion. I think the Pac-12 is actually a little better than people might have expected. They've got some fun teams out there, and I think they got some teams that might have a chance to skin there at the end, and whether that be Oregon or USC or UCLA for that matter. I think any of those teams could slip in, and I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be good for the college football playoff just to see different teams in there, because having Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia in, as an Ohio State fan, it's great, but as a college football fan, sometimes having some different teams in there might make it a little bit more exciting. But I really think this is the year that it's 4 teams. So like Ohio State's got to win out. I've talked to my son and he's like, Dad, I think we could probably lose to Michigan and only 1 loss to Michigan, number 2 in the country, and still make the playoff. And I'm like, no chance, no chance. You lose at home, you're disqualified from making the playoff. Now that people may agree with that view or may disagree with that view, but I just think I think this year it's gonna be 4 teams, 4 different conferences, and Alabama losing twice kind of made it easy on them to because there's not a real obvious second team from the SEC right now, and I don't think Tennessee kept it close enough to really make that argument. So I think it's 1 team from 4 different conferences, and one of them being Ohio State, one of them being Georgia, and whoever else is the other 2. And let's go.
Nevada, I'm going to stay with you for a second. Give me at this moment who you believe will be the final 4 that get into the playoff.
I would go with obviously Georgia, Ohio State. I'm going to go with USC, and I'm going to go with TCU at 3, and I'm going to go with USC at 4.
Wow, Bank. What's your 4? I don't think you're going to agree with that TCU, but you might.
No, I can't. I think TCU's trash. They have no chance. They're not any good. Now, they're pulling games out of their tails, and I do respect that. It's a great trait to have, but I don't think they're going to make it. I don't think they can survive these 2 road games coming up. If they do, they deserve it. If they go undefeated, they deserve to be in. I don't think they can do it. I love the thought of 4 teams from 4 different conferences. The Pac-12 is really, really good this year. UCLA, USC, and Oregon are really good teams. And then that second tier group, well, it's hard to put Utah as a second tier because Utah's really good, but Oregon State's good. Washington State's good. I can't believe what I've seen out of the Pac-12 this year because I always make fun of them. Not this year. Not this year. Not that conference, man. They're good. I don't think Clemson's out of it yet. I can see Nevada's scenario, but swapping Clemson for TCU. But I can see the 4 from 4 different conferences. I definitely can see that.
Yeah, I think I'm with Georgia, Ohio State, USC. God, it's hard to not put a second SEC school in there because it's just happened so many times, and I think
how do you do it though? I mean, you'd have to the second SEC. It would have to be LSU running the table with 2 losses, or Bama sneaking back in somehow and beating Georgia in the SEC title game. But they need LSU to lose twice to get back in. Now LSU goes to Arkansas and goes to A&M. They could lose twice. Is Bama definitely dead, buried, gone, no chance? I say there's still some beeping going on in the heartbeat there.
That's a good way to put it, because I just you think about a tough loss team, and it's like they've got 2 last-second losses at maybe 2 of the top 4 hardest stadiums to play at, Neyland Stadium, and LSU.
But they had the lead in both games with 1 second to go.
I know. It's like, how do you penalize a team that hard for that? I mean, I know you have to because they lost.
Right.
They lost 2 games, but it's like,
I know. I know.
Death Valley.
Would you want to play them?
Hell no. Are you crazy? Nick Saban
would
and
you rather
Bryce
play?
Young.
Yeah. Would you rather play TCU, undefeated TCU, or 2-loss Bama? Who would you rather play?
Oh God. I mean, outside of Georgia, like the team that I don't want to play is Bama. Because they got the experience, they've got the talent. Yeah, Saban, like, come on, no way.
But I thought the committee was supposed to get the 4 best teams.
Well, again, they always say that, but it never actually is that, because you send some of these teams to Neyland Stadium and LSU, and and again, like when you're Alabama, it's kind of like when you're Ohio State. Like a team like Northwestern is going to play out of their mind against Ohio State. Then they'll go lose to Southern Illinois or Rutgers or Akron or somebody. But when they play Ohio State, it is like, I'm telling you, it is a real thing. People think it's crazy, but like these guys all want to go to the NFL, and they know that NFL scouts and GMs, they're going to watch one tape. How did you do against the Buckeyes? Not how did you do against Akron or Southern Illinois or whoever. Like, it's like they're going to watch that. So guys play out of their mind. Like I used to live that, and it's like, you don't get any points for that. You don't get any like, oh well, they play harder, but it's the same thing with Bama. Like, I mean, look at the hubbub and the build up for Tennessee, LSU. It's exhausting to be a team like Bama or Ohio State because you always get the best shot, the craziest game plan. Teams, they game plan for you year round, because if they can somehow keep it close or actually beat you, it's a career maker. Like James Franklin beat Ohio State in 2016. He got like a 10-year extension. It was like, oh my God. It's like, I mean, it's like a giant deodorant stick if you could actually beat the Buckeyes and, recruiting and the whole nine. Speaking of recruiting bank, looks like we're going to get Damon Wilson back on campus. You feeling good about the defensive end? Feel pretty good about that?
Sure. Yeah, I think Damon Wilson I think Ohio State's in the driver's seat there. I would call him to Ohio State, maybe in pencil. I think Keon Keeley, I still think Ohio State has a shot, but if I got to make a pick with a gun to my head, I'm going to say Bama in pencil. Mateo is not going to decide till later. So I think Ohio State's got an amazingly great shot with Mateo because of Larry Johnson. I also think that DJ, now not looking like a NFL quarterback, puts a lot of pressure on Daddy to send Mateo somewhere where, forget NIL, he's got to be developed as a first-round NFL D end. And I think if DJ was looked at as the number 1 pick or, a sure thing first rounder, I don't think there would be that pressure. But I think that there's pressure now to get Mateo developed. Forget NIL. Forget the music career with Snoop and all that stuff. And that's what I think. I think that could push Ohio State over the top. Caleb Downs is supposed to be at the Iron Bowl. If he does not go to the Iron Bowl and he shows up for the Ohio State-Michigan game, then he's coming to Ohio State. So that's cut and dried there. He either shows up or he doesn't. If he does show up, he's coming. So those are the kind of the four things, that I'm really looking at.
Is there any chance by some act of God we could get all three defensive ends?
Oh, I would say no, but
Okay.
I mean, they'll take two and break out the champagne. You get one of them, you're going to, drink a 6-pack of Schlitz Light. One would be really good. Two would be amazing. Three, I think, is out of the question. But hey, man, we've been surprised before. I would say no.
I got you. Would you take? This is a great question on Twitter. Would you take DJ and not promise him being a starter to get Mateo? I was like, hell yes.
Why would
all day.
DJ come to Ohio State? What would the point be?
Is this a question?
Doesn't he want? He wants to play in the NFL. The only way he can get to the NFL is playing football. He needs tape, film. He's just not very good. I mean, he's a decent player, so he needs to stay at Clemson another year and hope he explodes. I mean, why would he? If he comes to Ohio State, the only way he comes to Ohio State is if you tell him you're the starter. And publicly you'll say, you remember when Justin Fields was going to have to battle, who was he? Tate Martell for the starting job, and it was laughable. And that would have to be, he would have to tell DJ, look, I have to tell the media it's a battle, but you are the guy. That's the only way he's coming to Ohio State. He needs to stay at Clemson or go somewhere that would promise him to be a starter that could develop him. He's got one more shot, man. He's not an NFL guy right now.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he'd battle Kyle McCord. It's all just theory.
No, he's not doing that. It's out of the question. And why would Mateo follow his brother? I mean, for 1 year, Mateo's got to go where it's best for him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's like the thing is obviously there's some sort of bad blood between Clemson and the family because like they're not even in the race.
No doubt.
It's Oregon, USC, and Ohio State. So
yes.
Nevada. We talked a little bit about the recruiting coming down the stretch. How much does this stretch run in the Michigan game play into recruiting in your mind?
Well, I mean, some of the biggest days of all time with the recruits and the biggest games, and you didn't get a single person. So I don't think anybody makes a decision on one game, but I think teams have momentum. I'm telling you right now, I think we're getting Wilson and Keeley. I really think that Ohio State's in a good position. I think it happened. I think there's a reason he committed to Notre Dame in the first place. I think he's more of that type of kid. And I think we're getting Wilson. So I think we're going to get both those. And as far as Mateo goes, I think we should get him. But I think the USC things, after we get those other two, it could be too hard because as Banks said, we're not getting all three. But I'm going to call right now. I think we're getting two of those three, and we party like it's 2018.
That would be incredible. Yeah, I remember the 06 game because, God's gift to football, Joseph Barksdale, was in like all of our position meetings before the Michigan game. I was like, I hope this kid's coming because if not, he's in every meeting. And then that kid, and I was like, then we win like the biggest game ever. Field gets stormed. Talking about for the game, I'm sore. I feel like garbage. And I was like, well, did you like it? He's like, oh man, this is unbelievable. This is great. Goes to LSU. I was like, what's the point? I was like, if that atmosphere and environment isn't going to win you over, I don't think it'll ever work. And I remember like we just like go ahead.
I can tell you a funny story. I can tell you how this is recruiting in a nutshell. There were so many recruits at that game. It was one of the most star-studded events in recruiting history at Ohio State up to then, when we started covering the internet. And the whole scuttlebutt after that game on the message boards was, we're going to get them all. We will get all of them. You got none of them. You didn't get any of them. And then a couple of weeks later, you get dusted by Florida, and it's like recruiting's over. Recruiting's over. We're never going to get another player. Who would want to come play for us? And the next year, you got everybody. So don't worry about one game. One game means nothing. It's all comfort relationships. Now we got to add NIL as a third rail now. But that was what taught me so much about recruiting was the Michigan game and then the Florida loss. We're going to get them all. no, we're not going to get anyone. And the reverse was true both times.
Yeah, it was amazing. There's a lot to be learned from that year because, I think that, our leadership wasn't great, between the Michigan game and the Florida game. Like we should have gotten the whip more than we did, in my opinion. And it cost us. It cost us big, and it stunk. I mean, that was like one of those things where, we just got our asses kicked. And it's like, that's where I loved Urban Meyer because he was the first guy to offer me a scholarship. And then, like, when I got the opportunity to actually work for him and kind of see how the sausage was made, I was like, holy cow. I was like, no wonder you guys beat us. I was like, these guys they were just animals. And that was like the thing, like, if we would have had a game like this Northwestern game with Urban as head coach, I mean, that film session would have just been like, I literally would rather be in like a federal prison for 3 days than be in that Woody Hayes for 3 days, because it was like that bad. It was, I mean, I'll never forget, we beat Miami of Ohio 55 to like 14 in 2012. And I walk in that thing, I was like, well, I'm sure we'll get ripped, but how bad could it be? It was like, you would have thought we lost to a Miami. They're like, I think it was Don Treadwell was the head coach, and his scheme, like Urban was like, he out schemed us, and we stunk. I mean, it was so unbelievable. And I was like, it was kind of like almost like is this real? Is this punked? And no, it was absolutely real. And I love Urban for that, because he just was off the chain. And that was the thing about, like, when I study the offensive line and I see some of the things that we're dealing with, it's just, you gotta just, there's no 40-hour rule when you want to be a good football team. So you gotta, get these kids in early, walkthroughs early in the day, walkthroughs before practice, walkthroughs after practice. Go out there with Donnie and Matt and just hit the bags, hit the sled. Like, I personally think hitting a sled is the stupidest thing you can do during practice. It's fine for conditioning, but you have to hit like bodies. Like, people used to make fun of us because they said we didn't hit the sled. I was like, yeah, because we hit each other. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, I joked with Zach Smith today. I was like, it's like if you run routes versus like a trash can that doesn't move and it doesn't press you and it doesn't jam you, and you say, oh, hey, I got open, versus that trash can. It was great. But I'm like, that's not the same as like having Bradley Roby playing press man on you, or Jeff Okuda, or, so like we would like hit each other. Like we would, we did live fits every day. We used to call it concussion drill, or just be me versus TJ Downing or Alex Boone. And we'd come like a foot apart and come off the ball against each other and just kill each other. And I'm like, if people are like, oh, well, but they don't hit the sled. I'm like, shit, come do what we do. This sucks, but again, it got us to the point where we developed our hands.
Let me ask you.
Good.
Can I ask you a question?
I'd love to.
What is the fine line between how often can you go best on best and you get somebody hurt, or you're soft practicing it because we don't want to get anyone hurt? We'll kill Indiana. You get a lot of bad habits. We're smoking. What's the fine line there? But how do you go best on best? Is there a time when you have to?
Well, I honestly, I think when you're going towards Michigan, you have to do more best on best. You have to, because you're not going to get a look on Saturday. And again, like, just going against the scout team, you're going against the kids that are freshmen and walk-ons, and they're nice kids, but I mean, you got to stay sharp. And the only way you can stay sharp is, like, I knew every day, like, I had to see, like, Mike Kudla, God rest his soul, was one of the best players in Ohio State history. And people are like, he's one guy I'll never understand how he never did, and he never even sniffed the NFL, because he was like Elvis Dumervil. He was an absolute pain in the ass. Like, he's 6 feet tall, bench 600 pounds, just an absolute monster. And and I had to go see Vern Golson every day. I had to see Cam Hayward. So like, you couldn't just go against the scout team. But again, it also varies if there's a ton of injuries. Like, Matt Jones has a pretty severe foot injury. And it really, I had the same foot injury. It was miserable to play with. But again, it's just like, it's a feel thing for Ryan. With Urban, like, there was no line. There was no fine line. It was like, hey, I'm gonna, there's a line, and then there's the line, and then there's the Urban Meyer line, which is like, anybody that can still walk is gonna play in the game on Saturday. Because I mean, he always had a great saying, because there's a 40-hour rule, and Urban's big thing was like, we're going to have a 2-hour practice today. We're going to get 2 good hours in. It might take us 12 hours to get 2 good hours in, but we're going to get 2 good hours in. And I was like, holy shit, we're going to be out here all day. It's like he'd restart periods. I mean, the one day we did inside run, which is the most physical period you do. And generally you do about like 20 plays. The one day we did like 60 plays. It was like playing a game. I was like, oh my God. But, I told those guys, like when I had like Corey Lindsley and Jack Mewhort and Andrew Norwell, and those guys filthy rich. Norwell was the highest paid guard in NFL history when he signed his new deal. Corey Lindsley, highest paid center of all time. None of those guys had played going into that year. Corey Lindsley was a 4th-year guy who hadn't started a game, so it wasn't like he was some phenom, but he ended up being as good as the Pounceys. And, and it was because, in 2012, it was like, me and Ed Warner, our hair was on fire for an entire year to get that line to not suck. Because if your position group sucks, then it's like like Lord of the Rings, like the ISR and the big orange eye that like shoots fire. That's urban. And if your position group sucks and the ISR is on you, it is like being in hell. If your position group is doing good, then it's the greatest thing in the world. Like Ed and I, we would do walkthroughs before 6 a.m. conditioning. And, the one day we went out there, and it wasn't really to like show anybody up, but we literally had a scripted walkthrough. We went out there, it's like literally 5:30 in the morning before we had a big workout where Mickey was going to go. The guys said, hey, we're going to do a full walkthrough. I scripted it. I had cards. I had a scout defense, ran through the whole thing because we had to teach those guys that offense. Like, because we had spring ball coming in. Like, we didn't want to be the group that didn't know their plays. So we're out there grinding like crazy. And all the other coaches are out there like sipping coffee and laying on tackling dummies and bullshitting with their players. And holy shit, Urban, we get into the staff meeting after that workout, and Urban walks in, slams the door, and he, and Zach, I love Zach because Zach could tell the story. He was like, did you see the offensive line today? Like to all these guys. And again, we weren't trying to show them up. We just don't want our offensive line to suck. Like, again, I'm not trying to but he just blisters everybody except for me and Ed. So me and Ed are sitting there. We're like, fuck, we just wanted our guys to not suck. So we're like, we didn't care. We're like, we are not going to be the shitty weakling because we went 6 and 7 the year before. So I used to tell those guys, Marcus Hall and Zach, or not Zach, excuse me, Jack and Nora. I'm like, look, you guys lost 7 games last year, and I had to sit there for everyone. I had to lose to fucking Michigan, up at Michigan. I'd never lost to Michigan before, and I had to lose to those guys because you guys sucked. So whatever I got to do to get you guys to not suck anymore, we're gonna do. So we were grinding those guys into mincemeat, but they did a really good offensive line, and those guys got drafted and they got paid, and none of those guys cry because it was hard in 2012 because they all, like, Taylor Decker was a freshman, and I took all spring break to work with Taylor. Reed Fragel turned into a tackle, and I was proud of those guys. I was happy for those guys because those guys, like, they all got paid. They all got drafted. They all lived good lives, good people, good family guys. And it's like, but 12 was not a fun year. But again, it's like, just show me the baby. Don't show me the pains and the labor. Nevada, Bank and I have kind of been talking. Any thoughts on what the Bucks need to do to enhance, what's going on offense and improve on defense? I got to look for you because I know Bank is going to get PTSD from this look, I'm sure. But Bank, we have the immortal 4-4 defense brought out of the Alabama mothballs. We have EA. Hang on, where's my pen at? Let me get my pen out. My pen not working. But we've got our guys right here. EA, Tommy, Steele, Simon. So, and again, I don't know if this is what we're going to see against Michigan. Who knows? But 4 linebackers. We haven't seen it since we had Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle.
Oh boy.
But Nevada, is this what you think is going to be the tonic to stop the Michigan running game?
I think it's going to be at least 3 of those guys. I think you're going to see a liberal dose of 4-3 where you've got McAllister coming off the field and Cody Simon coming on the field. And, I think Ohio State's going to go to a more heavy look. I think, Michigan is, Harbaugh. Harbaugh is going to fully commit to the run to the detriment of everything else. He's going to try to line it up and prove that he can do it just like they did last year. And I think this is a different year. I think the 4-3 look's going to be very effective against that. I think they'll go 4-4 in certain circumstances as well. I think you combine that with crowd noise, which is going to make it really tough for them to call cadence, and big performances from Ty Leak and Michael Hall. And I just look back on how many times we've played against premier running backs and premier running games. Like think about all those Wisconsin games where they came running in with Melvin Gordon or whomever, and it's like, oh, they're going to run for 400 yards against us, and we've been able to shut it down. I think we're going to be able to certainly slow down, if not shut down completely, the Michigan running game. And if they have to pass, McCarthy's a turnover machine. So I'll take our chances. We get ahead, make them try to pass the ball, turns it over. I think that Ohio State's going to roll big, but I think it all starts with the 4-3 look and put more linebackers out there, less safeties, and I think that's the subtle adjustment that Knowles is going to make, and I think it's going to make a lot of difference.
Bank, your thoughts on loading up to stop the run? I mean, after last year where how we gave up like 9 yards of carry in the second half. It's like you got to do something different. You got to get more physical. I think EA's coming on 21. Because that's why they moved Chip up back to running back. And again, I know he hasn't played at all, but we're gonna need some of these guys to step up and play. And some of these guys haven't been good, but I don't know how you stop these guys in nickel. I think if you run nickel, it's gonna be suicide.
No.
So you're gonna have to get that third guy out on the field, and that's not really Jim Knowles' forte. But
no, I know, but he's gotta change with who he's playing against. And I agree against Michigan. I don't want to run the 4-4, but I definitely want that third linebacker on there, and one of those safeties has got to come off. It won't be Ransom, and it won't be Hickman, so it's got to be McAllister. Michigan, they're better than I thought they were going to be. They definitely are, but I don't think the running game is as good this year as it was last year. I don't think Corum is as good a player as Hassan Haskins was. So we'll see. But the thing with JJ, man, he's a wild card in this game to me. I can see a 9 for 28 with 3 picks, and then I can see him hurting these corners because I don't know if these corners can cover anyone. And Ronnie Bell's good, and we're going to see. I think Donovan Edwards out of the backfield can hurt Ohio State. So I don't know. This is really a tough matchup for me. I can see the OSU blowout if OSU starts fast, gets Michigan down, takes them out of what they want to do. Man, this could get ugly. But if Michigan gets out fast, controls the tempo, controls the pace like they did last year, you might have a game that goes to the wire. I don't know. I need a couple more weeks to dig into this one. But it's going to be interesting for sure. I don't think you can run this type of goal line defense against Michigan, though. This is all determined because of field position, weather, and Northwestern's dead at this point down there. But I think they did get out of this, didn't they? Didn't Hall run for like 9 on one of these? I think they went to the Wildcat, and when they have that running back there with no quarterback, that's really tough to figure out what they're going to do, right, Kirk? There's so many things they can do out of that Wildcat. Like, are you kidding me? They ran that thing like 11 or 12 times. Like, that thing should work the first time for 6 yards, and then every time after that, you get -1, and you say, well, we can't do this anymore. But they were active in that Wildcat. That Ethan Hall was good. Sure. So, I don't know. Michigan game's a long way away. They got to get things tuned up, cranked up now. I think it's in practice. I kind of like that Urban Meyer mindset. I don't know if that's how Ryan looks at it. I'm old, so naturally I'm a best on best kind of guy in practice, and that may not be the way the game is today. So maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I am too. I think the good teams, SC. I mean, and again, I think it makes your mentality different when you go out to practice because these guys all look at the practice script. The practice script is posted on the grease board inside the locker room. It shows what periods you have, and you always look for how many periods do we have against the first defense because scout team is just kind of BS. But I mean, it's like when I had to go see AJ Hawk and I had to see Quinn Pitcock and Dave Patterson and some of these guys are monsters. Like, I mean, you got to eat your Wheaties. You got to get your mind right because, again, when I had to go against Vern Golston every day of my senior year, it's like if I don't show up and give it every fiber of my being, I'm going to get humiliated. And again, I don't want to be pissed off because I had a bad practice. I gave up sacks. I wasn't sharp. You can live with plays that aren't perfect, but you don't want to give up a sack. You don't want to give, I feel like it hurts to me internally when I see a kid like Donnie give up that forced fumble touchdown against Iowa when he messed up an easy twist game with him in Paris against some slow Iowa guys. It's like, oh my God, like that's a lineman's worst nightmare is a sack fumble for a touchdown. The only thing that could have been worse is if CJ would have been hurt. I mean, that's the only thing that would have been
Gets
made it
hurt.
the absolute
Yeah.
worst. Yeah, because then you're like, oh my God, how bad could it be? Couple questions on here. We got some questions in the chat. This is a big one. This is one that everybody wants to know. Bank, I don't know if you have anything on it. Is Caleb Downs visiting? We don't.
Well, right now, his dad has said that they are going to the Iron Bowl. So if they're at the Iron Bowl, he ain't coming to OSU, Michigan. Mm-hmm. Well, he still could. I mean, he can take an unofficial visit anytime. He can come tomorrow if he wants to. So, but the hope all along for Ohio State was to get him in that stadium for the OSU Michigan game. And the last I've heard, quote from his dad, is that they are going to the Iron Bowl. But the Iron Bowl is not for 3 weeks, so we'll see. I mean, I'm not expecting him at Ohio State, just going off what his dad has said. So we'll see.
Yeah, I again that would be again. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think Nick's not going to go out like this. It'll be interesting to see if. I don't know if there's ever been a coaching staff on earth that has changed over more than Alabama's has over the last 15 years. I mean,
yeah, every year.
And usually it's because they're going to take the head job at Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Florida. Right. I mean, he's lost coordinators to like every major job in the country, Oregon, Cristobal. I mean, it's almost incredible that he could actually switch these guys out and still maintain any semblance of a program. He's just that good to get everybody to buy into the culture. Because, it's like when I was at Ohio State, like Jim Tressel had the same offensive coordinator for 12 years. I mean, nobody was coming to poach bowls, so it's like the old covered wagon wasn't really the hottest thing in the world. Jim Haycock was there the whole time.
They all wanted Nick Siciliano, but he just wouldn't leave.
So, I mean,
NFL wanted him.
Oh God, we had some guys, man. I'm telling you, this is another good question. Would you consider? I'll give this one to you, Nevada. Is there a drop off at guard? Would you consider resting Matt Jones? That is an interesting question.
I would. I mean, he's clearly hobbling out there, and I think I don't know how much worse Enoch could be, or how much worse Josh Fryer could be in a situation like this. But I think going with one of those guys at this point in time would make an awful lot of sense, and also show you a little bit about what you've got for next year, because frankly we haven't seen a lot out of the second team on the offensive line, and those guys got to be ready to play next year. So if it was me, I'd switch it out. I think this would be the week to do it, and I'd roll the dice and take my chances.
Bank, do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I feel for Matt Jones because he's really one of my favorite players, because he's come so far as a player from where he was a couple of years ago. Now, I know he's got a ways to go, still to, be who we think he can be. But I would definitely rest him this week against Indiana. I would probably rest him against Maryland. I don't know, Indiana for sure. He's not playing. Then Maryland, it would be, if we have to play him, we're going to have to play him. We shouldn't have to. No, I agree with that 100%. This week, you can play anyone. I mean, Indiana cannot beat Ohio State. I don't, you play whoever you want, rest whoever you want. And then Maryland's not, they're not horrible. Then you see where you're at for Maryland. But this week, yeah, he's not even dressing. No way.
Yeah, the rumor is he has plantar fasciitis, which is a extremely painful.
I've had it. It's awful.
Okay. It's awful. So
it's awful.
I had plantar fasciitis in 2006, and I played on it every game. I got it in Northern Illinois. I'll never forget. Ted Ginn had like a 70-yard touchdown, jogging down the field on that terrible grass, and like my foot like got caught, and it like twisted, and I was like, son of a bitch, my foot. I thought my cleat was on too tight or something, but I played the rest of the game, took that thing off, and man, my foot was like black. It hurt. It was so much blood and bruising, and we had to play Texas the next week down in Austin, and I was like, fuck, shoot me up, let's go, just give me the needle, like in Varsity Blues, and I did it because I didn't have like again, God bless my team, I didn't have a good backup, so I was like, I can't not play against Texas because of a boo-boo on my foot. And plus, like, I was like, look, when I'm 40, I'm 38 now as of 2 days ago. Like, I'll be fine. I'm just gonna nut it up and go. And the other thing is like, I would be, if I'm Matt, man, I don't want to get Wally pipped. Enoch
Yeah,
shows up
you
and
never
balls
know.
out. All of a sudden, I would have been like, God damn, why did I sit out that Indiana game? And then you get to watch the Michigan game, looking like a schmo. And so again, like when you're kind of a fanatical player, like that's always in the back of your mind. Like, it's like when I tore my knee up in '05 and Alex Boone was in, like, I'm like, shit, I better get back. I might not see the field again. He's 6'8", it's like, you can't, Ohio State, you don't want to give, a guy too many at bats or let him sit in your throne for too long, because like it's Ohio State. Like guys, there's always a guy coming for you, and every year they're recruiting, new fight. They're recruiting to replace you every year. So it's like you gotta stay sharp. But it's interesting, and the flip is this. Matt hasn't been playing well either. So it's like it's not like he's been a world beater. Like he needs the reps, and he needs to keep getting his. So again, that's a tough one. It's like, because if you sit him and he's just getting scout work, he's not going to develop into what he needs to be to play Michigan. So it's kind of like a catch-22. It's like, well, you can make your foot better, but your technique's not getting any better by standing there, eating sunflower seeds in your sweat jacket. You got to go out and grind a little bit. So, but that is a great question. Thank you, Chris, for that. Got a few more. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's tough when you do the stuff. Oh, we got the JSN stuff is interesting. Anything on JSN? I'm gonna go with you, Nevada. Nevada, any chance we see JSN for Michigan?
Yes, I think. In fact, I think we do. I think probably the latest thing that I'm hearing is that he'll probably get a few plays against Maryland, and be playing against Michigan. So I'd almost be betting. I'd bet that we will see him in the Michigan game.
Bank, do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. The guys on the team that I know have told me he wants to play. And that's the whole key here. This is not Leonard Fournette or McCaffrey or whatever. He wants to play. So that injury is a tough injury, man. It's one you think is healed, and it's not healed. And you only find out by playing. So, I think we'll see him. I think he's doing everything he can to play, and I think he wants to play. I've been told he wants to play. And that's half the battle here. Or that is the whole battle here. He wants on that field.
Yeah, I just think from a legacy perspective, if he comes back and has one of his signature games, even if he just gets, 8 catches for 120 and we win, the legacy, it just cements it into that kind of that upper tier. Because I mean, he's a fantastic player. The guys I talk to and the people I talk to know what he hates. He's not only is he like probably the most well-liked guy on the team, but he's like the tone setter in the workouts. Like nobody outworks this kid. Nobody outruns this kid. So again, like it literally, it breaks your heart when a kid like that, comes back too soon because he wants to be out there with his boys and he has a soft tissue thing where he re-injures it. Like, I mean, it's like I broke my foot in '05 and I had plantar fasciitis in '06. So it's like, I was able to shoot those up and go on those. Thank God. Cause like a hamstring is the most miserable thing in the universe because you think you're close and then all of a sudden you that one route, all of a sudden you pull it again. And you're just like, mother effer. It's like, you're right back to square one. And I feel for the kid because I've met him. It was so funny. When I met him at camp last year, he literally introduced himself as Jackson Smith. And I was like, who the hell is Jackson Smith? And I was like, oh, Jackson Smith is Njigba. He left out the Njigba part. And it was when we were with all the South Florida Express kids, and I was talking to him, and couldn't have been nicer. And I was like, congrats. He had that catch. And I mean, it's just, I'll never forget he introduced himself as Jackson Smith. And I was like, do you really go around like that? Like, I was like, who the hell's that? But this is another good one. I'm going to go to you first on this one, Bank. Mark Lewis, great question. Is Ohio State better off using healthy running backs off the bench, which I would assume means Chip and Dallin Hayden, or the banged up starters who've been struggling against the competition? Because I think Mayan is an absolute beast. He is a warrior.
He's a warrior.
He looks like he's hurting, like he's a hurting turkey out there. But what's your thought on that, Bank, given these next two opponents? Do you give Dallin a little bit more red? Do you give Chip some more? Because like, I think you give Chip like 3 plays and just say, hey, I know. I'm in the Chip fan club, man.
Yeah. I mean, he's done it. I mean, we have film on Chip Trayanum, D1 film. Was pretty good too as a running back. I think when they went into that game last week, I think the plan was blow this team out of here, get Mayan off that field. But Kirk, when it's 7-7 in the second half, I mean, there's no substituting at that point.
No.
You got to win the game. So
Yeah.
I think they probably felt going in, let's dust these guys off. 35-3 at the half. Get Nat out of there. Get Mayan out of there. Get anybody out of there. That's dinged. You just couldn't do it. I mean, you're in a dogfight. It's a 14-7 game late. I mean, you just can't do it. You needed Mayan. And Mayan gave you everything he had, which he always does. And thank God CJ ran the ball. I mean, to kind of, they needed all that. They needed everything you got out of Mayan. You needed everything out of CJ. This game probably didn't go the way Ryan Day thought it was going to go when he headed over there. So, yeah, I think this week, if you sit Mayan this week, it's fine. You can beat Indiana with you playing tailback. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, I would sit Mayan this week. I definitely would.
Nevada, you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, the subtext of the question is, the scheme with which we've been playing and the performance of the offensive line. I think I saw a stat where our running backs have been hit in the backfield before they reach the line of scrimmage like 51% of the time or something like that. I mean, it's some ridiculous stat. So I don't care who you put in there, whether it be Dallin or Chip or whomever. If you're not blocking plays up and they're running into that they're not going to look very good. So I think we've got a couple of guys. Trey's been hurt all year. Mayan was really laboring out there. Felt really bad for him. Really appreciated the effort. It was a Warriors effort last week for sure. But no, I'm with you guys. I'd go with the other two guys. There's just no really reason to play them this week, just because it's clear that we don't need to know what Mayan or Trey can do. We know that those guys are NFL quality running backs. We just got to get them healthy. So the best way to get them healthy is just don't get them hurt more. So I'd give the carries to the backups and so over the 40-point spread.
Nevada, I don't know if this is your burner account. It's just me, Tim 79. Should Ryan Day run his quarterback more? Nevada, I'm gonna let you start with this one because I know that the people in the Woody Hayes subscribe to the Buckeyes group, so I know they know how we feel about this question. But what are your thoughts on should Ryan Day run CJ Stroud a little bit more?
Well, today was a great day. Ryan Day in the press conference said, "I think we found something. I think I learned something. I think I found something with the quarterback run." And it's like, wow, Ryan, that's great. Yeah, yes, he should run him more. No, he should not be a battering ram. No, he should not be JT Barrett. But just a few runs. Man, you saw how that one opened up. He just kind of stumbled around the right end for 44 yards, really broke the game open. So, yeah, I'm all for a few select QB runs just to give those guys pause. And, yeah, I appreciate my burner for asking that account. That must be my Horseman Oracle helping technician burner account there. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
You've got like 9 web browsers for all your different logins. Bank, I know. You saw what it did. I mean, obviously, they had to pull out all the stops because Northwestern was running like goal line defense against us. But what are your thoughts on him running? Because I think when you're coming down to Michigan and you get to potentially Georgia, like you can't hold anything back. You need every trick in the book to help it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it, Ben?
Yeah, I don't want him running the ball between the tackles against Michigan State when they're up 41-3 and taking hits. Do not want that. My main complaint with CJ are the free yards he doesn't take. You know what I mean? When he's rolled out and he's got nothing but green grass in front of him, and you can get down, you can go out of bounds, but take those free yards that are there. And, that would be my main complaint of him not running. But what we saw last week, yeah, I think select plays. Yeah, I love it when he runs. Don't take hits. Don't take on a linebacker so you can get 6 more inches than you could get if you just go down. And I think if you're smart about it, yeah, there's definitely a place for that. Absolutely. And it probably helped win the game last week.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said, it's like the boy who cried wolf. Like when you run read option and you leave the end and you literally never pull it, eventually they're going to stop honoring the pull. It's like if you run like a naked bootleg and or you run like a zone play with a little boot action and you know the boot part, eventually they're going to stop paying attention to it. And I'm like you. Like I mean, I played offensive line. God bless Troy Smith and his legs, especially against in 04 and 05. His legs like beat Michigan single hand. If he doesn't scramble when things are broken down, we lose because we stunk. We had 4 losses going into that Michigan game in 04. And, Michigan ran off on man coverage multiple times. Troy ran for over 100 yards, and none of it was designed. It was all just, hey, that's what they gave him. Go, because again, I've been on the field when I lost my senior year against Juice Williams when he ran the ball and we couldn't stop him. And I'm like, oh my God. I sat on the bench for I swear to God, it was like 10 straight minutes to end the game. We never got the ball back. I kept looking at the clock and the clock's, went from like 7 minutes to 4 minutes to 2 minutes. And I was like, holy shit, we're not going to get the ball back. We're not going to get back on the field because they kept converting and they, little runs. And again, like I just think that, you keep them on the perimeter, tell them to slide. This isn't a drop your shoulder and see how tough you are, but slide. And just, again, that you need every guard. It's like Jim Chelsea used to always say about like we played Michigan, every 1 yard is worth 2 yards. Every yard is golden. So it's like every little bit you can get, because I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier for Ryan Day to call 3rd and 3 than it is 3rd and 9 because we didn't scramble for 6 yards and, we threw it out of bounds or whatever. And it's like, I just think that it's just, I've seen how it deflates the defense. I see how it breaks the defense's back when you convert on, when they have everything covered, they have good rush lanes, good coverage, and that quarterback takes off. And all of a sudden they convert because he's the guy you didn't account for. And, teams have to spy, they have to change everything if you can scramble. But, I don't want him to be Tommy Frazier, but I just think that when you play really good teams that have equal talent, like Michigan and then potentially Georgia and some of these teams we'll see in the playoffs, like, you can't hold anything back. You got to pull out all the stuff. So great question. Nevada Horseman, Oracle Buck, or whoever that is. Appreciate you, Tim. Let me see. I get a couple more. Oh, this is another good one. Do you think that Ryan Day should do a little bit more tempo? I'm going to start with you on that, Bank, because I love tempo. With Tom Herman, we ran a lot of tempo. Obviously, the game's different now. Nick Saban complained about it, so now the umpire stands over the damn ball, so you can't run tempo like you used to in the olden days. But, I mean, tempo saved our bacon. We played Penn State out at Penn State in 2012. They had a really good defensive tackle, a kid he got drafted by the Seahawks. And, we won tempo in the second half. We didn't do it in the first half. We held it until after the halftime so they couldn't adjust. And I'll tell you what, we went tempo, and that guy, by the end of the drive, he looked like he was about to die. He was so tired. These guys can't, and we're going against Larry Johnson at the time, so they can't get off the field. They can't rotate off. And it makes it's weird because you think the offensive linemen would hate it because they get more tired. But, the offensive linemen, they're not used to rotating. The defensive linemen are used to rotating every 3 plays. So when they're on there for 8 plays in a row, they're dead. So, I mean, it actually, like on film, it was comical the next day we were watching how little pass rush those guys were given because they were huffing and puffing so much. But, Bank, I'll start with you. Should we do a little bit more tempo? Should we show some maybe this week so that Michigan has to prepare for it, or should we save it for Michigan? What would be your thought process if you're Ryan Day?
Yeah, I like it, but I actually talked to a college coach about this about a year ago, and it wasn't Ohio State specifically, but it was the whole deal with the quarterback standing at the line of scrimmage, just looking over at the coach, waiting to get instructions. Well, that coach can see that defense, see what they're in. The guy up above tells them what's going on, and boom, you nail them before they can adjust. I like that, but yet I like tempo too. I think there's a place for both. I think early in the game, I really like the tempo thing early in the game to kind of get juices flowing, and maybe you can sting that defense early, but I really like the whole point of the eye in the sky coming down to Ryan Day, get to the line early so you've got 10, 15 seconds to see what they're lined up in. And I think it's really successful, and coaches love that. So, and I'm kind of I don't know, I guess I became a devotee of that whole thing because I had it explained to me one time by a D1 coach, and it made so much sense to me.
Nevada, what are your thoughts on the tempo and some of the look back stuff?
Well, I think now defenses are getting so sophisticated that when they change when you change, and they're waiting to make their calls as well, and you change and go back up the line, and then they change again, and so I'm not. I think you've kind of negated a little bit of that advantage, but I love tempo. I agree with Bank. I think it's got to be a change of pace, but I really think we're going to see a liberal dose of tempo against Michigan. I know they practice it every week. I know they're waiting to go fast. When they went tempo against Clemson in whatever year, the years blend in my mind, whether it was 2020 or 2019 or 2021 or whatever it was, when we blew them out in the college football playoff. Yeah, when we went
It was
fast.
COVID, the
I
COVID
mean, to
year.
me, the COVID year, that was glorious, and I think that really plays to our benefit. I think this is a team that really wants to go fast, and I think when we can exploit even just little advantages, whether it be creases or blown coverages or little things like that, I think we can use tempo to great effect, and I really fully expect to see more and more tempo as the season goes on.
Beck, you got any counter comments to that? You agree with that?
No, I agree 100%. I like being able to do everything. You know what I mean? I don't think it should be strictly look back, strictly tempo. I think there's a place for everything, and that's where the head coach earns his money. He's got to know the team he's playing against, and there's a time for both. So that's how you make your money.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest benefits to tempo is, you can practice it, when you script your first set of plays and
Right.
you can go through it in the walkthrough and say, guys, look, this is what we're going to start with. And I love it when we open up with some nice, easy throws for CJ. It's just some nice, easy completions. Get Marvin involved, get Emeka involved, maybe a couple of nice little easy runs for, the O-line. Again, like my best experience with tempo was the Sugar Bowl against Arkansas. I mean, we put it in. It was one word. Everybody, you could say Oregon or Peanut or Boston or whatever, and everybody knew what to do based on one word. And we sprang that on Arkansas, and we got out to a huge lead, and we almost blew it because we did every stupid thing possible. We had a punt block, we had a field goal block, like every stupid thing you could do in a football game. We did that game, but we were up by so much, we ended up scraping it out and winning. But I'm telling you, when teams aren't ready for that, and you're good and efficient at it, and the official lets you do it, it's devastating. And I think that it's something that, just in my experience, it was funny. Jim Tressel had a really interesting point on tempo when we were sitting in our staff meetings in 2010. We're getting ready to do it at Arkansas. He's like, these kids have no attention spans anymore because they're all on their phones and Twitter. And so, it's like when you can shorten everything and just make it one word, tells the O-line what to do, tells the receivers the route. Usually there's just one read. We had Terrell. We didn't. I mean, God bless Terrell, but he wasn't Aaron Rodgers. So it's like, hey, throw it to DeVere. It's like throw it to Dane. Throw it to DeVere. Like it wasn't like some full field. He checks down to the fifth option in the progression. It's like, hey, look at this one guy, and if not, run. That was like the old covered wagon has some fire coming off the back of that bank. But I don't know. I've always liked tempo. Like with Tom Herman, I mean, we were tempo machines in 12. And again, the game's different now. I realize that with the way, Nick, because when Nick Saban says we can't do tempo anymore because it's dangerous, I'm like, well, so is having a 350-pound nose guard that can kill our quarterback. That's just as dangerous. But he doesn't cry about that because he's the guy with the big nose guard with Marcel Darius or whoever. Oh God, this will be one of the last ones. This is Nevada. I got to go with you, Mark Lewis. Nevada, are we ever going to see a screen pass this year? Our backs literally have like 9 receptions on the year, and it's like, what, week 9? And I mean, last year, like, I think Trey had 27 catches by himself last year. This year we have 9 total running back catches. So it's like, Nevada, I know it's your favorite play.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's my favorite play. And also, I mean, Mayan and Trey are both really good catchers. I mean, they can catch the ball. And, that's the amazing thing is that we're not throwing them the ball out of the backfield. I've always thought those swing passes, but just forget the screen, just a little swing pass, a little outlet out of the backfield. It's just the easiest pitch and catch in the world, and we just don't do it. And I'm not quite sure. We practice it every week. Hope springs eternal that we're gonna see one of those. So I'm gonna say yes. I'm going all in on yes. We will see a screen pass this year, and when it does, I want both of you guys to stand up and call me and meet on the phone and go, Nevada, you called it. There was a screen pass, and it happened. So I'm putting my stake in the ground right now and declaring yes, we will run a screen pass this year.
Bank, your thoughts on our nine receptions in 9 games from the Bucks?
Yeah, I'll tell you who's going to throw it against you, and that's going to be Harbaugh throwing it to Donovan Edwards, matched up on one of those linebackers. You're going to see that. I promise you're going to see it in that game out of the maize and blue. I hope Ohio State does. I mean, I like both of those backs on screens or swing passes. I mean, you've either going to get Trey in the open field where, make one guy miss and it's, you hear the band play, or you get Mayan in the open field. And then those corners have to be like, man, I don't know if I want to tackle this guy. So yeah, I love it. And, it's not, screen is fine, but I like the swing out of the backfield. Get those guys lined up on linebackers, matched up on those linebackers. I love that play. And you're going to see it in the Ohio State Michigan game. I guarantee you're seeing it out of one team. They're going to throw it to Donovan Edwards 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, we ran some plays. Michigan. I mean, for whatever people want to say about Jim Bowman, like the 06 Michigan game was probably the best called game that I've ever been a part of, because we ran a Statue of Liberty. We ran that play where we put Ted Ginn at tight end. We had like 9 guys across the line of scrimmage and Beanie in the background, and that was a great play because we practiced it all week. And Beanie's like, in the game I'm going to jump, but in practice I'm not going to jump because, when Beanie jumps over top of me and TJ, he lands on us. Beanie weighs like 260. He jumps up in the air, lands. I'm like, Jesus, Beanie, like break my ribs in half. But no, I love the creativity, and I love being able to spring things on Michigan that they don't see all year. I mean, those were a couple plays they hadn't seen. We hadn't ran a Statue of Liberty all year, and we hit it like in the most critical part of the game. It was like 3rd and medium. I mean, it was really good stuff, and I'm excited to see what Ryan knocks out. I love these guys because the screen thing, play action works every time. I know Nevada, you love you some play action. Nevada, what would you do if they ran a play action out of the pistol, which has been 100% run, and it was a screen pass? Would you faint?
Yeah, I think I'd start crying or something like that. Yeah, it's just I love it when we do stuff that we don't expect. Like, remember, like again, I think it was the 2020 game against Clemson, where we lined up, kind of looked over to the sideline, and then ran that sneaky quarterback sneak from where we're kind of looking over the sideline and went right to the line, was Justin Fields around the quarterback. And I'm like, man, I love it when Ohio State does something that I just can't, completely predict before the ball snaps. So I'm counting on that. They've been saving all these secret plays for the end of the year, and they're going to roll them out against Michigan and pull out these secret playbooks. So hey, you guys did it with Bowman. We can sure as heck do it with Ryan Day. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Appreciate you guys. A nice hour. Bank. Any predictions for this week? I know you haven't put your prediction out, but any thoughts? Cover. I love Ohio State big. Well, I'll say mine then, because I think we're just gonna kill these guys. We've been really good at home this year. I don't think we're gonna screw around this week. I think the team's humiliated with how bad they played last week, and this is a tough town, man, because nobody hates the 9-0 town a team more than Ohio State fans. Because I'm like, we won, but man, these guys are getting battered right now, and I think that they're gonna be tired of it. I think they're gonna lay the wood to Indiana, and the one thing I do know is, Kevin Wilson hates Indiana, and he hates their head coach.
Well, I never thought of that.
Oh, I
never
think
thought
about that. I think about it every time I play him, because that DC stabbed him in the back, man, and it was not pretty, and it was a cold-hearted thing that guy did to him. So if Kevin can score 180 points this week, he will. If Ryan lets him call the plays, we actually might. We will be scoring points as soon as we walk into the stadium. So that's the angle I always think of when I see these two play. And he made that program pretty good. I mean, for Indiana, I mean, I'll never forget when they dropped 49 on us in 2012. I mean, the Indiana Hoosiers dropped 49 on the Ohio State Buckeyes. We won 52-49. So,
Right.
you know, so
Yeah, the
Nevada,
national championship team. I think the national championship team had trouble with
Tevin,
Indiana. It might have been the
with
following year, but I know it
no,
was
no,
Bosa
no,
and those guys.
no. It was
Or was it?
It was Tevin Coleman, 2014.
Okay.
He ran all
Okay.
over us. I mean, he probably ran. I want to say he ran for over 150 yards. I mean,
Wow.
again,
I remember them having success.
I mean, I was at that game with one of my good friends who actually played for Kevin Wilson at Miami University when they're the Miami Redskins, and it was freezing cold. And like I remember watching that game, and I was like, "Holy sh!" I couldn't believe how So it was 40. The final score of that game was 42-27, and Kevin Wilson put 395 yards on the national championship defense. Tevin Coleman. All right, Bank, you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Tevin Coleman's stat line from that game: 27 carries, 228 yards.
Oh my God!
3 touchdowns.
So he got paid after that game.
Oh
that
my
was
God.
his NFL. That's his NFL moment there.
That might have been that probably was, I would bet that was the most rushing yards by a single player that we gave up all year. I mean, that's
was
200.
Jordan Howard on that team. Howard on that team too.
I think he might have been the next.
I thought
year.
they played together, but
no, Howard.
maybe not.
Howard came from UAB, like the year that UAB folded their program.
Okay.
He transferred to Indiana. I think he was after
Okay.
Tevin Coleman, but no, Tevin had a
Okay.
90-yard touchdown run on the on Joey on Joey Bosa and Von Bell,
Darren Lee.
Yeah, like one of the greatest defenses in school history. Like I remember sitting there and I was like, "Holy cow! Like, are we that bad, or is this guy like Adrian Peterson?" And again, I mean, my respect. And I wrote in my column, I was like, "Look, there isn't a coach on this earth that I respect more than Kevin Wilson, because that guy. I always judge guys. What do they do with what they have? Because you go to if you're the head coach of Ohio State, you're going to go 11-1 every year, 10-2 at worst. But when you're at Indiana and you're outgunned every week." And you're scoring 27 on the Buckeyes or 49 on the Buckeyes. Like that's because your scheme is damn good. You're a damn good coach because you're walking in with a water pistol and they've got machine guns. And you're making it competitive. So massive respect for him. And again, when in 12 when he hung 49 on that defense, on Luke Fickell's defense, we didn't see Urban Meyer in the staff room for the entire week, and it was literally the greatest week of me and Zach Smith's coaching career because Urban wasn't in the staff room just destroying us every single minute. It was awesome. It was like, so they used to sit there with Luke and Everett Withers and Kerry Combs and, Vrabel, just roasting them nonstop for 10 hours a day. And we were over there just, sipping our coffee, having a high old time game planner for the next game. Because normally we were the ones getting cooked every day because Urban was an offensive guy. So he'd always come into our meetings and just, put us over a spit. I was like, oh my God, what is he going to be pissed off about today? Oh man. Nevada, any thoughts on Indiana as we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, bet Ohio State in the first half cover. I think Ohio State comes out, smokes some bad. I think this is going to be bad. I think this is going to be one of those like 70-0 games. I really think it's going to be bad. I'm playing Ohio State. I'm playing them on the first half, and I think they come out fast and don't ever stop.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is going to be a total murder. Again, we've generally played really well at home. We started fast at home. That gives me confidence with Michigan. And again, like I know how hard it is to get up for Indiana at noon. I had to do it twice, and it is like, there's nobody at the skull session. Everybody's asleep. Everybody's getting to the game late. So, these guys got to just figure out a way to make their own energy and come out and wax these guys and stay healthy and go on to the next. And the thing I would love is if we get up by enough that we can pull the starters out and get some of these young guys in. Because the one thing I always worry about is we haven't seen enough of the young guys. Bank, I don't know if we've seen a single young wide receiver in the game for more than 5 days. Like Julian Fleming's out there dragging around one shoulder, couldn't get separation against the Northwestern DBs, like really isn't playing that hot. And it's like, I was like, well, do we have anybody else that can spell him? Because I know that he's had massive shoulder issues. He doesn't look like he's still himself. But I haven't seen any of these guys. Like last year, we at least saw some some Marvin Harrison sprinkled in, and some when Jackson was a freshman, we saw him sprinkled in, and these guys, like, I don't see any of these guys.
No, I mean,
So
well, Ryan Day really likes to run those starters late in these blowouts. I mean, he likes the big scores, and there's no need to worry about style points. This is cut and dried. You win the Big Ten, you're in. You don't need style points. So I think traditionally, I think Ryan Day has left starters in way too long. And this year, especially, there's no reason to score 70. And maybe you do score 70 with the backups with McCord and those guys. And there's no reason to put McCord in the game with 3 minutes to go and let him run the clock out. If you're going to put him in with 10 minutes to go, let him throw. Nobody gets mad when you throw with the backups. No one gets mad about it, and who cares if they do? So, yeah, I think this could be a week that scoreboard gets lit up, because I think there's going to be people's attention gotten in practice this week and in meetings this week. And, I think Ohio State really comes out loaded for bear. Indiana is just not very good at all. I love the Kevin Wilson aspect you threw in there. That kind of has my attention too. That maybe Ryan lets Kevin Wilson get a little bit of fun this week.
Oh, I mean, that's every time we play these guys, I think of Kevin Wilson aspect, because that is one that there is no love lost, and that is
he got hosed. He got hosed.
That's just G-rated. Well, it's not only did he get hosed, but like he got hosed by his friend. I mean, his friend, who's now the head coach, stabbed him in the back, and it's like, I mean, when all of a sudden you're the guy who's holding the the machine gun, or you're holding the nuclear bomb, and you can hit the button, like, I mean, I don't blame him if he's running it up and throwing it deep, and I mean, how if he was the head coach, he'd probably be onside kicking and fake punting and doing every other thing you can do to put it on him as good as you can. Any final thoughts, Nevada? We're gonna wrap this thing. We've got some stuff to watch tonight. Final thoughts from you, Nevada?
No, just looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to seeing the team play this week, and I'm more excited about this game here maybe than I have been for a long time for this type of game. I think it's gonna tell us a lot about the rest of the season. So I'm can't wait for Saturday. Wish it was tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm so with you guys. Well, I appreciate you guys. Again, we have the best in the business. We have Bill the Bank Greene. We have Nevadabuck. We have just a spectacular crew on BuckeyeScoop.com. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for your questions. I hope you guys had a good time. We're going to do this every Tuesday. Kind of make a little Tuesday Night Live show. Just kind of check in, see how everyone's doing. Talk playoffs, talk about the previous game, watch a little film, and talk about recruiting news. So hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a blast. It's a nice, easy show. It's a fun show. But we appreciate you guys. Thanks for your feedback. We are all going to be on BuckeyeScoop.com, heading to the message boards right now for the rest of the night. We are on those things nonstop, the most active board in the business for the Ohio State space. So we appreciate you guys that subscribe. If you have not subscribed, consider it. I think you guys really enjoy it. Give us a shot. I think you'll love it. It's also a great gift. Christmas is around the corner. We say Merry Christmas, and we really appreciate you guys for being a part of our community. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. You guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.